From the perspective of what you are developing and what we are developing, we are hiring for a long-term purpose. Like we are not hiring for what we can do in the next 2 weeks or 2 months. My thought process, like I'm hiring this person for the next 2 years at least. We want people for long-term, so it was really important for us not to how you center a team. It's like you have the base to learn a lot of a skill set, and we are going to iterate. I'm semi-technical. I get junior people and I kind of manage them. That didn't go well because at the same time I'm a founder of a company. So I need to do sales. I need to do accounting, contracts, all of those ones. My name is Reza Farahani, co-founder and president at Work From Home.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Like 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing at the backhand.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
The company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve. I was proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Lappart, and today how Reza Farahani created the platform that uses real-time analytics for companies to understand their employees' experience. This episode is supported by Turso. Turso is the open-source edge database from the creators of libSQL. Do you put your edge computing close to your users? You should put your data there too. Turso makes this easy utilizing the developer experience of SQLite. Access a free starter plan at turso.tech/codestory. Turso, welcome to the data edge. This episode is brought to you by our friends at MemberStack. MemberStack is the fastest way for you to launch a beautiful Webflow MVP with robust authentication and smooth payments integration. Join companies like Slack and American Airlines in serving millions of members every single day. Get started for free by visiting memberstack.com/codestory. Reza Farahani has a background in engineering and was heavily influenced by his family. In particular, his uncle was a fighter jet engineer, which he thought was the coolest job in the world. He graduated from Waterloo and became a data scientist, but eventually moved towards entrepreneurship. Outside of tech, he lives in Ontario and loves to rock climb and boulder. He enjoys the community aspect of the sport and has access to gyms and outdoor boulders where he lives. He's also passionate about food, enjoying Greek and Turkish food in Greektown where he lives. Reza and his co-founder wanted to engage workers who were working remote, productivity, mental health, etc., and they believed that these parameters were vectors in measuring the performance of remote teams. This is the creation story of Work From Home.
So work from home, that's kind of one of those words like, hey, it's a employee engagement platform for remote teams. That's when we started it. And that's kind of until we exit the company, that was the motto of the company. And what does that mean? Is like, we try to help people get engaged while they're working and while being away from their coworkers. Being remote, that could be like you are working from home or a different continent. Doesn't matter how you get engaged to your workplace, kind of. And what we like, our motto is like, workplace is not the place, it's a mindset. Yeah, it's like being there, being engaged. That affects like kind of a lot of stuff. That would be like your mental health of the people, or also like your productivity. We totally believe that all of these ones are vectors in the same direction, if I want to put it like mathematically. So it's just like the mental health of people is not away from the productivity of them and like how the business operate and brings value to everyone. And that was the goal of Work From Home when it started and until like we exited last year.
Let's dial into the MVP. So that first version of the product you created, how long did it take you to build and what sort of tools did you use to bring it to life?
I just want to say like the whole idea, it's not like, hey, we want to do this one and see Eureka moment and let's go build it and put all the efforts around it. We pivoted a lot when we were starting it. And I'm a big believer of like, build something quick and dirty, show it to someone, see if they like it. And when they put the credit card down, that's where like, you have something and you need to like start planning around it. Yeah. So it's like, what's the minimum effort that can take you to something presentable? The UI is pretty important, like when you're showing it in a way that's it's pretty, but more of like, hey, what the user wants is in it. So we did kind of like a couple of sketches. My co-founder, she was a UI UX designer before, did a few design on Figma. And we took that, it was me and another engineer, kind of like build everything from ground up. I want to say like not everyone loves what I'm going to say, but in Firebase, and the only reason is like both me and my other fellow developer, we knew how Firebase works and how to create a quick and dirty product there on React. Specifically, if you want to build something UI heavy, UX heavy that shows something to the customer that can log in. So that was kind of the whole story.
Okay, let's stay on that MVP for a minute. And you're alluding to some of these at a high level, but dive into one or two of maybe the decisions you had to make with that MVP, maybe around feature limitation or approach or anything like that, and how you coped with those decisions.
What we mentioned, like, hey, Firebase has out-of-the-box database, like a NoSQL. Just want to say, like, the product is B2B, yeah? So when it's a B2B product, you usually have, like, you need to think about different access of the user, yeah? If you think about Facebook, like creating something like B2C is Facebook, it has one user. Everyone you log in, you have everything. But when you come to B2B, it's like you have this concept of organization. And on the back side of it, you usually have something called super admin, which means like, hey, the super admin, I'm the person who developed the product, the company who developed the product. I want to give access to someone, take access to someone, or update something on the platform. When we started it, we didn't want to deal with any of this, yeah? Because this, like, the permission management is big problem, and we don't want to do it in MVP right away. And the super admin, that become an issue because I didn't want to develop a UI for like my co-founder, the business people to go and change the stuff there. So they kind of like, that's a secret was like the whole backend of the database of one pieces that we need to change often. It was Google shit. It could be Airtable, anything. So the user could log in and change the stuff, not our user, but people inside the company. But it would change effects directly inside the platform. So the MVP was like, let's build something that has added value for the user. Let's decide what exactly we need to do. We should do this one, like we are doing authentication on Google Firebase. It's going to be here and it's fine, even if we go to a 1 million user, yeah? But this super admin thing is not a problem, yeah? We can go change it, we can go rewrite it. There is not going to have like a lot of consequence down the road. So those type of feature and like design decisions, like what's going to stick with us and we need to do it right now, and what we can change later on. Let's do it sloppy, let's do it quick, let's do it as fast as possible, so we have something that we can put in front of the users.
This episode is encrypted by CipherStash. Data breaches are becoming a fact of life. Know why? One of the reasons is because developers lack the right tooling to get the job done, i.e. encryption at rest tools are complex and inadequate. The solution? Encryption in use with CipherStash. CipherStash uses searchable encryption in use technology, providing continuous and universal protection for sensitive data. With CipherStash, you can turn your existing database into a vault, utilizing zero trust key management, SQL native, and with no code. Though encryption is complicated, CipherStash is easy to use. The tool fully supports SQL via a drop-in driver replacement, supporting the query types you know and love today. And did we mention it's fast? For queries over 100 million records, you can expect additional overhead of less than 1 millisecond. It's a no-brainer. Get started by reviewing their docs or downloading sample projects in Rails or Node plus Sequelize today. Visit cypherstash.com/codestory and get started protecting your data. This episode is supported by Treble. This day and age, APIs are a fact of life. And as such, product and engineering teams need tooling that is lightweight, real-time, and data-rich to help them ship and maintain APIs faster. That's where Treble comes in. Treble is an all-in-one platform for the entire API lifecycle. The product offers world-class monitoring and observability, providing more than 40 data points for each request, enabling you to understand everything from performance to user behavior. Dashboards help connecting your entire team for lifecycle collaboration. Documentation is automatically generated, saving massive amounts of time for your development team with every new release. And setting up Treble? Super easy and fast. In 3 simple steps, you can be up and running with their platform. Their pricing is designed to support API teams of all sizes. So get started with Treble today and automate your API ops. Did I mention they have a free forever plan? Find out more by visiting treble.com/codestory. That's TRBLLE.com/codestory. Okay, so you've got your MVP, it's working. How did you progress the product from there and mature it? And what I'm curious about there is how you built your roadmap, how you went about deciding, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Work From Home.
The development is the most expensive thing that you are spending money on in a B2B startup, yeah? So how to be frugal there, it's really important. So I wouldn't develop anything that is not needed by the customer. We know how the product look like in a year, but kind of what product look like in the next month is getting decided by the customer, yeah? And we kind of like had always been in touch with the customer, like waiting for them to ask for a feature. If we had asked enough, or we had a like conviction that this is going to be the feature, that would have come to our feature list. So we wanted to make sure if a feature gets released today, it's going to be used tomorrow. Yeah. And that was the feature we are going to develop immediately. So in a short term, like we have a long-term vision, we know where we are going. So we kind of mix what is our long-term vision, but more importantly, the features developed today are the ones that we knew immediately they have added value. And to find out what immediately adds value is the only way to find that out is talking to customer. So the second thing that you need to know besides talking to customer is heavy analytical tool that tells you how the user uses the product. Yeah. That could be like you have the video recording of it. You could be like Mixpanel, your database, like a lot of sources there, but that's how you like mixture of these inputs will be an output of what's going to happen in my next sprint.
What you're talking about is, building what is right for the customer. And to do that, you have to have the right team in place. So tell me about how you built your team and what did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
That's something that I made a lot of mistakes around it. From the perspective of what you are developing and what we are developing, we are hiring for a long-term purpose. Like we are not hiring for what we can do in the next 2 weeks or 2 months. My thought process, like I'm hiring this person for the next 2 years at least, or like even more. So who I'm willing to invest in and work with that would be with me for the next few years. Yeah. I know a lot of people like don't talk really nice about like, I'm answering algorithmic question and I go to work and I like need to center a div or something. It's like that's full of these memes. But the algorithmic question is like tells you how a person does the problem solving. Yeah. How strong are the bases of a developer. So going through that one, like we want people for long term. So it was really important for us not to how you center a div. It's like you have the base to learn a lot of skill set and we are going to iterate. I'm semi-technical. I get junior people and I kind of manage them. That didn't go well because at the same time I'm a founder of a company. So I need to do sales. I need to do take care of the operation and accounting, contracts, all of those ones. So that was a kind of the premise that I was fully wrong about it. I didn't have time to train my team and save money there. So then later on we moved to a mix of senior and junior people and plus just making sure everyone that's coming for a long term, and that was kind of become the secret success of our dev team, that we're developing value like a sprint after a sprint, month over month, and quarter over quarter.
This episode was automatically optimized by Cast. If you run cloud-native software on AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure, you know how out of hand the bill can get. This uncertainty hurts your business, but you can solve it with Cast AI. Cast AI automates cloud cost, performance, and security management for hundreds of companies of all sizes. The platform's customers begin saving immediately and cut an average of over 60%. So before you go and sign a multi-year contract with a cloud provider or lay people off, check out what Cast AI can do for you. To get you saving even faster, Cast AI is offering a free cloud cost audit with a personal consultation. Visit cast.ai/codestory to get started. This episode is supported by Terso. Terso is the open source edge database from the creators of libSQL, the popular fork of SQLite. If you put your edge computing close to your users, like with Netlify or Vercel edge functions or Cloudflare workers, you should put your data there too, in order to maximize performance gains at the edge. Terso makes it easy. With a developer experience of SQLite and a distributed database you can replicate much closer to your users than traditional database offerings in the cloud. Terso's lightweight, easy to use, and free to get started. The team at Terso is offering a generous starter plan specifically for CodeStory listeners. Head over to terso.tech/CodeStory and get started today. That's TURSO.tech/CodeStory. Terso, welcome to the data edge. Let's flip to scalability. When you built this initially, was it built with scale in mind from day one? Or did you have to fight this as you grow in any sort of capacity? And I could make my own inferences from what you've said, but I want to hear what you have to say.
We had a different product that going on and like different features that going on. So sometimes we were lucky and everything worked out, and sometimes it didn't. But everything that was in the mindset that what are the pieces that if I hit the scale, I can go and fix them, and what are the parts that are like need to be scalable from this moment, yeah? Because if we go further on, that would be a huge undertake fix, yeah? So we always had that in mind. And until there was this product kind of like, again, come from customers, like if you have this, I'm buying it. And it was a big customer and it was in our roadmap. It was a Slack app. We went through it, we did it, it worked for them. But suddenly app was such a hit. Again, like we didn't come up with the idea, the customer came and we did it and for them. And it was such a hit, it suddenly create bottleneck in our platform. But we weren't ready to scale that fast. And that the whole thing was like, I don't know how much I can get to the details of it, like technically, but the response time from Slack is a little slower. So if you send something and come back, it could get timed out. And just like, we went through the whole, like a storm of like fixing bugs, like 4 or 3 sprints right after each other. So you do your best that you have the scale in mind. And sometimes it goes wrong. And you need to start putting down the fires, yeah? So you do your best. Sometimes it works. Most of the time it doesn't.
So as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built. What are you most proud of?
Actually, this is the product that went wrong and the scaling. And honestly, that was one of those things that from the ground up came from the conversation with the customer. The customer gave us the idea. The customer gave us different customer gave us like feature requests. And as we move forward, I could, we had Mixpanel for the audience they don't know, it's like kind of like shows the usage inside your product. Yeah. Like who came in, who used it. And we saw this like a hockey stick on the usage of that product. And money is all good and fun. But honestly, like the joy that you get that the people are using your product is something else, So imagine your teammate did something great, and it's like in a Slack you have these commands that you can do / like / kudos at Noah, great at the new podcast that you did. That was the whole thing, and it was a meme showed up that would congratulate you, and your team could celebrate the whole win. And there was at the end of the month we had a gamification that shows who got the most kudos, who sent the most kudos, and we called them like the cheerleader or the hero. And that whole gamification around the kudos, everything was in it iterative, and we could saw how stuff worked out as we released feature by feature. So yeah, I feel like that was my most proud moment at work from home.
Let's flip the script a little bit. So tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it. And I heard you speaking of hiring mistakes. It could be that, could be anything you want to throw in there.
When we developed Kudos, but it was on Firebase. So like the technical mistake on like design of the architecture. When we started the conversation around that, it's like we did the architecture design. We needed to use very simple, like we have serverless platform like AWS, or you get a dedicated server. What does it mean? It's like, hey, they give you computation power when you need, or they give you a dedicated machine always running. Yeah. As we didn't know the requirement for Slack as detailed as we needed to, if we knew it, probably or someone experienced was on the team that have worked with this one, or we have talked with someone that was experienced, we wouldn't make this mistake to go with something serverless at that point. So that was the issue. It didn't scale as we wanted, so we needed to migrate everything to a dedicated server. The way that we solve it is I was lucky to have very super smart people in our team. From that team, we have someone who now doing PhD in, I think, MIT, someone else working in infrastructure in Meta. The team was very competent. I had a mistake that I hired junior. Later on, I fixed it. And that was kind of having these people there with me trying to solve this problem, was very helpful. So having the team. The second piece was I learned from the people before that from the moment that we start working on this one, it's I want information about everything. So we brought different analytical tool inside our product. So we know exactly right away where we are hitting the issue. Now it's time for problem solving. What's the fastest way? What's the most vigilant way to move from this this solution to the next solution without much of an interruption? And at the same time, what is the long-term plan? So we kind of start patching stuff. At the same time, we're developing something that fully replaces the previous solution. So you want the short-term, medium, and long-term solution when we are tackling that problem. And kind of the last thing is how we make sure we don't make this mistake again.
Okay, this will be interesting, given you mentioned that there's an exit. So what does the future look like for work from home, for your team, and for you?
The exit come from the perspective that we were doing something, I would say, auxiliary in HR. I would, maybe that's not the right word, but yeah. So we were doing, if you think about HR, there are three things that are core: HRIS systems, payroll, and hiring. We weren't doing any of that, yeah? So technically we had in our plan to do one of those because that's where you kind of hit the deck accord status. You want to be the broker of record. You want to be in these three elements. And when it came to the acquisition, we were a strategic buyer for GoCo, which GoCo was doing the, core HR product. So it was a very good buyout for them because they get us that they could release it as a new product to all of their customer. For us was in a situation that we need to go raise the next round. So either we need to build them or they need to buy us to make sure this happens. Yeah. We did that. And after we left, obviously, for a few months, a couple of months, you have transitionary period. We had these deals hey, everyone who can join GoCo or want to leave. I was really passionate to start my next solution. So I kind of was not a part of the team that joined GoCo. Some team members did, and some team members that were up to the new venture left. So we had a good mix of people joining and not joining. Yeah.
So let's switch to you, Reza. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I was lucky through my life. I faced a lot of competent, successful, or the people who were to do stuff in the right way. So I can say even when I joined my first job in Canada, there was this startup called Tangent Gaming. And I think they changed it to Tangent Systems. I don't know, one of them. And their startup was a few new grad. Specifically, that was for gaming companies. Mostly casinos or table games companies. And when I look at to their product, when I was working there, it's the way they build it was super interesting. They just build features after features after features, just making sure they are solving the right problem. You could see some of the stuff hey, their optimization take a day and a half to run. They were looking for solving the problem not in the best solution. They were looking for the best solution. They were looking for a solution for now, yeah? And that kind of influenced me later on that I was working for work from home, because the best solution can take you to this rabbit hole that you never come out and you never have a solution at the end, yeah?
Last question, Reza. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
Solve for customers' problem. Yeah. It's like, what is the problem? Understand it deeply and just make sure as soon as you have something, show it to them. It's like, does this solve your problem? Just like find a problem, solve it, show it to the customer and see if they want it. And that way, like most of the products that I know and the most successful businesses that I've seen is built in the same way.
That's fantastic advice. Well, Reza, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story and exit of Work From Homey.
It was a great conversation.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
What's the difference between DIY and doing it yourself? It's the difference between a part-time passion and a full-time business. Wix gives you the power to turn your passion into a moneymaker. With a website that fits your unique vision and the business tools you need to succeed. Let your ideas flow with AI that guides you, but keeps you in the driver's seat. Manage your business from one dashboard and keep it growing with built-in marketing features. It's time to turn your daydream into your dream job. Do it yourself. Go to Wix.com.